I got the van. This is my 1996 Ford Econoline passenger high roof van. And the van is done. In that first section you just saw, I just bought the van and now it's finished. In this video, I'm going to basically show you the entire process of building out this van from start to finish. You know, the refinishing of the doors, the kitchen platform, the bed platform, the couch, how I did everything. And at the end of the video, you'll see an entire walk around of the entire thing. The entire build, including the van, was only $4,000, and we were able to use reclaimed wood on the vast majority of this build out. So if you got any questions, obviously let me know. I'd love to hear them. But otherwise, thanks for tuning in. I hope you appreciate the video. Before I was able to really start renovating the van, I was going to have to get rid of the old bench seat that was in the back. It was one of those 3-seater ones that folds all the way down into a bed, and so there's a whole bunch of wires and stuff attached to it. That's crazy. There's so much wire in this van. Like pounds of wire. If you've never removed a seat out of a car, the process is fairly straightforward, but it's always a little bit harder than you think it's going to be. You ever see those caving videos where the guys are like in the skinniest, most narrow caves they can find? And they're like belly crawling their way through, and they're like, oh, looks like the water's coming up a little bit. That's how I feel. So it was a little bit claustrophobic and kind of hard to access some of those bolts, but eventually we got everything taken out and all the cords and electricals removed, pulled that old bench out and threw it on Facebook Marketplace for $50. So that was kind of day one of taking the van apart. Okay. Cool. There we go. That should give me access to both sets of screws. It was really my goal with this van to only do the most necessary demolition and to try to leave it as stock as possible. Woo. So I pulled the overhead bolster out and pulled some of the wood paneling off the sides where I knew that the kitchen and the bed platform were going to go. I then snipped all the old wires, capped them, and then reattached all the blinds. I feel like I could have gone into the scrap copper business with all the wire I pulled out, but that's a conversation for another day. When I pulled out the bench seat and the seat belts, it left some pretty significant gaps and holes. As you can see all the way through down to the outside through the hole that the seat belt bolt left. So I'm taking some marine sealant and using that to essentially reattach some scrap carpet, and then doing the same thing here, cleaning it out, putting the marine sealant down, and patching up those holes. It's not the perfect solution. Probably I could have done with a little bit more waterproofing there, but it does the job and does a little bit of sound deadening as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is have this on the bottom side. Right there, it's going to go through the roof, and then the bracket will go on top of that. Washer, nut. So hopefully that's strong enough. I have fiberglass pieces all over my forearms. Whatever, so it goes. I have to be a little careful with how tight I crank this down because right now I'm compressing fiberglass, which definitely gets a little sketchy. I don't want to lose any kind of the structural integrity. So I'm trying to get it hand tight without it cracking. Okay, that feels good. You know, this thing is not that heavy, but I think this is like the 6th time I've put it up on top of this car at this point. So it gets a little tedious after a while. Okay, it's lined up. Now I gotta put in the spacers. Again, I did not get the silicone sealant that I know that I need. I haven't done that yet, but that can be a tomorrow Cameron problem. I don't think it's supposed to rain tonight. Honestly, even if it did rain once, it's probably not a huge deal, but this is just the type of thing that, generally speaking, you know, you want to make sure that stuff's watertight so you're not causing any damage. I gotta say, I've wanted this for a very long time, and it's pretty exciting to finally have it be done. At the time of filming this, I was sharing a house with a couple other homies in this neighborhood, and in the neighborhood there was a whole bunch of young families with kids, and those kids would just run around everywhere, and I was so paranoid that I was going to end up backing over one of those kids coming out of the driveway, because you can't really see out of the back of this van. So the backup camera was one of my top priorities when I got started on this project. Okay, that pilot hole was not big enough. That thing's gonna crack. Should I do this right? I should just do this right. Alright, that looks good. That looks good. I think we'll have to keep that angle pretty low, is my guess. So at this point the audio had cut out from the video, but as you can see we're running the wiring here. The backup camera we got was only like $35 from Amazon, and it had just enough wiring to run all the way from the front to the very back of the van where the backup camera was. As you can see, it's just a quick plug-in with a USB. The camera angle itself wasn't quite as wide as I would have liked, but it really does a trick. We ended the day with just a little bit of cleanup here on the back, taking off any of the stickers that I felt like didn't quite match the vibe of the van. So the upholstery and the wood staining is one of the parts of this van that I get the most questions about. What it really came down to is I felt like the doors in the van were one of the first things that you see when you open it. They were also one of the most beat up parts of the van. You know, it was where I think the van kind of really showed its age the most. The fabric was peeling and I don't think it looked very good. So I did like 2 minutes of research on YouTube, figured out how other people were doing some upholstery, just like general upholstery on chairs and stuff, and I was like, that doesn't look that hard. So, you know, about 1,000 staples later, and I thought it all came together pretty nice. My fiance and I went to the craft store and picked out a couple fabrics that we liked and just kind of went for it, and you can kind of see the process here as I'm going about it. For the wood staining, it was super simple. You just take all the wood accents off and sand it down and stain it, which again is one of those things that's easy to describe and takes hours and hours to get done. So it was definitely a labor of love to get the van looking the way we wanted it to, but as you'll see at the end, I think it turned out really nicely. Like I said, the process is super simple, but anyone who has done any sanding, I think, understands how tedious it can be to get it all done. There's probably 20 different pieces. Each piece takes 3 different grits of sandpaper, and you got to make sure you're getting into all those cracks and crevices, or else the stain's not going to sit nicely. At the time, I was also still working full-time, so There's a whole lot of Saturday evenings and Sunday mornings spent just out in the yard sanding. I'm sure the neighbors got a little annoyed eventually. One of the things about these old vans is that the window panels tend to crack from sun damage. So I knew going into the purchase of this van that I was going to need to find some new window panels. I spent some time going to a couple different junkyards and eventually found the right van, but that van had some writing on the window that said "do not touch." So it took a little bit of convincing, but after some friendly debate with one of the workers there, he let me go ahead and take these window panels. As best as I could tell, he was hoping to keep that van for himself, but didn't seem too attached to these particular window panels, which was super nice of him, because I know these are kind of hard to come by right now. After I got them, I gave him a new little paint job to clean them up, make them look nice. Throughout this whole process, I'd actually been waiting to install the door panels with the upholstery and the wood accents until after I had found the window panels. One of the things that I've seen in other people's builds that I thought was pretty sweet were those folding tables that were attached to a door. So I decided I'd go ahead and give that one a shot as well. The real key to this one was finding the right hinge that would sit flush when it was folded in, and then also allow it to sit at that 90-degree angle when it was folded out. Building this one did involve a whole lot of measuring and drilling. I wanted everything to be nice and symmetrical, and I also didn't want to crack any of the wood or anything, so I did a lot of pilot holes. As you can see, I attached a clamp directly from the piece of wood to the door. In hindsight, I should have attached the hook portion of the clamp to be level with the tabletop so that it laid more flat. I could have done this by mounting it to another piece of plywood directly above that tabletop, but as you can see, it still mounts up alright, and functional is functional, especially for a budget project like this one.
There it is, I'm almost done.
And the last step of the assembly was just to attach that strap there so that it sat at a nice 90-degree angle when it was folded out.
All done. Everything looks good. Not bad.
Now that all the doors and windows and all the pretty stuff is finished, it's time for the meat of the project, which is going to be the bed and the kitchen platforms. I was able to get most of this done with reclaimed wood I had gotten from other projects at work and stolen from some dumpsters and stuff like that. This was also my first time using a pocket hole jig, and it worked well enough, but with some of that older reclaimed wood, it cracked a couple times. I had to redo a few of those pieces, so keep that in mind. There's absolutely value in being environmentally conscious. There's also a lot of value in just using higher quality materials and getting it done right the first time.
That's pretty good. So got the right height for there. So I think the little countertop should fit pretty nice. Basically this will be the couch. This is kitchen. How cool is that? I'm pretty stoked on this right now. I like the way this looks a lot.
One of the challenges with designing the interior of a van is the fact that a van is not straight on the inside. So while I was able to keep the bed platform pretty rectangular, as you can see, it's basically just a big old box. The kitchen platform design involved a little bit more measuring and a little bit more difficulty in getting it to line up well. While I'm not a professional woodworker, I do have some experience with it, and so everything was custom designed and custom done by myself. The design is that I essentially have a couch platform, and the top of that couch platform will slide out and sit on the edge of the kitchen platform. This allows for a wider bed platform that can then slide away so that you still have an aisle straight down the middle of the van, so you can walk all the way from the front to the back of the van effectively. As you'll see here, this is me working on the lid of that couch platform. I'm essentially turning one piece of plywood into 2 sliding pieces of plywood. With those bed slats finished, I'm then going to attach one end of the bed slats onto the pegboard. The pegboard primarily acts as the lid of the couch. That way you can still lift the lid and access the storage area underneath, and the pegboard also allows a little bit more airflow, which keeps any mattresses from getting moldy on the bottom. If you watch closely throughout this part of the video, you'll see that the kitchen actually goes through a couple different iterations as I work to build it out and kind of figure out the sizing on it. I spent a lot of time using the cardboard to make cutouts to kind of understand how it would be able to fit into the van. One of the complications with using a passenger van like this and not fully gutting it out is that you run into the fact that the van is not square, and so you have a lot of abnormal angles. So using cardboard was super helpful because I was able to prefab the entire kitchen build essentially to make sure it fit into all the right places. I definitely suggest using a lot of cardboard to make those stencils and make sure everything's fitting right. One of the other questions that I get pretty frequently regarding the kitchen is basically why I use 2x4s at all. Why didn't I just go with a standard, plywood construction on it? The answer to that is I figured overkill was better than underkill. With half of the weight of the bed platform leaning on that front face of the kitchen, I decided that it was better to have some 2x4s down there, give a whole bunch of structural integrity. Right here in the video is pretty frustrating. This is where my jigsaw broke on me. Just stopped working halfway through a cut. So I had to pull out one of the hand saws just to finish up that one cut, and then headed back to the hardware store and bought myself a new jigsaw. So from here on out is where the build becomes pretty untraditional in the construction style. I used a whole bunch of L brackets to assemble the majority of the kitchen. Again, the shape of so many of these pieces was so abnormal that there were very few opportunities for nice right angles or clean lines, and so it was just easier to kind of build each shelf one at a time, make sure it fit into the space. So as nice as it would have been to just use a nail gun and get it all done nice and pretty, it just wasn't going to be how it was going to go. And you can see with some of these little shelves here, all the different lines and angles that had to be cut into the back for this thing to fit nicely into the van. And again, you'll see me using that cardboard stencil technique here, just making sure that my measurements are perfect before I go ahead and make a cut into the wood. So this here is me cutting down the kitchen counter. This is where that cardboard technique came in super handy. Even with the cardboard cutout, it was still probably the most stressful piece that I had to cut. I think there were 12 or so non-right angles that I had to cut into that piece for it to sit perfectly against the side of that van. But I trusted the process and it worked out great, and the fit was perfect. And from here, the last cut for the kitchen counter was making the hole for the sink, which I grabbed from IKEA.
All right. Yeah, that looks excellent. Nice.
And after some finishing touches on the cabinet area of the kitchen, it was time for paint. While I was fairly careful about making the outside of the kitchen look pretty nice, the inside cabinets kind of got the landlord special. Just kind of slapped in a layer of paint to make sure all the wood was protected and called it a day. On the kitchen counter, we used that exact same wood stain that we used on all the accents in the rest of the van. So it was really nice. It turned out to be the same color as the sections of the door panels and the same color as the dashboard as well. So I felt like it really tied in the whole van together, made it seem very uniform. Alright, that looks good. How about that? I like that a lot. The The water system we chose for this van involves 2 3-gallon jugs, obviously one for dirty water, one for clean water.
Okay, that should do it.
We got some standard plumbing from the hardware store, and then we got this electric pump from Amazon, which I will link if I can. And that little water pump is rechargeable, so it's super simple. And then you just run your tube down to the fresh water tank, and there you have it. That's pretty good. I can live with that. After installing the kitchen, all that was left was some details and some paint. So we painted the grill, did some final touches on some other parts of the van, but that was it. At that point, she was ready to go, and we drove her away at the end of our wedding reception. Megan and I had some amazing weeks of travel, and those videos will be coming out soon, but in the meantime, I hope you enjoy the walkthrough. My name's Cameron.
I'm Megan.
And this is Big Red. Big Red is our 1996 Ford Econoline. It started out life as a standard family van, and then, as you'll see in a moment, we renovated it to be an excellent multi-week kind of vacation van for us.
Before we were engaged and while we were still dating, we always talked about how fun it would be to kind of live a little bit of the van life or try it out a couple weeks at a time, see different places in our beautiful country that we had not seen yet.
Yeah, so the van was very purpose-built. Number one, we wanted to still be able to seat 4 people. We wanted to be able to sleep in it. We wanted running water and a sink. And other than that, we just wanted something that was comfy and reliable to be able to drive around in. I found this van on Facebook Marketplace, got a killer deal for $3,300. After that, the goal was to just use as much reclaimed wood and things like that as possible so that we could keep the entire van build under $4,000. So we did that successfully, as you'll be able to see. I think it's important to remember that van life and stuff like this can still be done on a budget. You know, I think you drive to Yosemite and you see these $200,000 rigs out there, but the reality is that you don't need to do that, right? You can have a nice, affordable rig and still be able to enjoy yourself and enjoy the outdoors and have something that's special made for you. You know, and we were in a spot where we knew that we could spend more money if we wanted to, but we have other life goals beyond just driving around and smelling bad in a van. And so this is an ode to practicality. So come with us. Hope you enjoy the walk around. Here's Big Red. So this is the front side. Not a lot to talk about. We reupholstered and refinished all the doors and all the front here. So it used to be a lot shabbier, and this was a big way to make it look a lot nicer without spending too much money. You'll also see that we refinished all of this wood paneling along the front here. And then we also added a backup camera. And other than that, the front remained basically untouched. So we didn't do a ton to this back end here. Obviously reupholstered on both sides here. And then this is a fold down table. So custom done, as you can see by the screws sticking out of the plywood. I did my best with this project to do as much with reclaimed wood as I possibly could. So I really only paid for a couple pieces of wood. The rest of it was all salvage wood or wood that I got from projects at work. So that was a big part of being able to keep this thing on a budget. The back of the van is the part that we built out ourselves, right? We pulled out a 3-seater bench and put in the couch, the bed platform, and the kitchen. So this here is the couch, right? The cushions lean up like that. It's comfy. You can just kind of chill in it. No issues. Use the kitchen however you need to. It's very convenient. To turn it into a bed is also very easy. Move that out of the way. Grab that. There. Pardon all the mayflies. It's currently mayfly season in Utah. Gross. But that's how you turn it into your bed platform right there. So very quick, very easy, and then it goes away just as quickly. And then do you want to come closer and I'll show underneath what that looks like. So as you can see, this is pegboard on the bottom side, and then just a nice piece of plywood that slides in on itself. So it can still be used as the top of the storage container. but it also slides out. So within the storage container, we try to keep things pretty minimal in here so that we have space for all the fun stuff when we travel. So the things that are permanent are just the bedding here, and then toolbox in there. And then with the toolbox, we haven't had to use it yet, but we do have a toilet seat. So if we ever need to, if times get tough, we have trash bags and we can use a toilet if we get desperate. But so far, no one's had to poop in the van. Cool. And then this is how you access it when the van is open, right? Obviously, there's plenty of space in there. You can fit 2 backpacking backpacks, basically whatever you need to. So a lot of storage in there. It's really nice. One of the things I love to do is fishing. So in the van, we have space for 4 different rods. We've got space for 2 rods on the inside here. As you can see, they just sit on hooks and come down easy. And then on the outside, we've got the fly rod rack as well.
Welcome to the kitchen. Starting over on this side, we have an extendable counter for when we need more space. We've got our cooking set up right under here, as well as a little cutting board. Down below, we've got a battery that I'm just gonna leave down there, so when we need to charge extra things, that's our go-to. We got this little faucet off of Amazon. The sink itself is from IKEA, and these are our cleaning supplies that we use. We do use an all-natural soap so that whenever we need to dump water, if we're out and about, then it's natural, it doesn't hurt the environment. Coming down below is where we keep the water jugs. They're held in together by this cord. So we've got a clean one and a dirty one, and we just refill these at different places that we stop at that have clean water. These are our kitchen cabinets. So in this one, we keep our spices. Down here, we use one of these organizers to hold our silverware, knives, scissors, napkins. And we've got some Ziploc bags down there too if we have leftovers. Over here is where we keep other cooking supplies for the dogs. Got some plates and bowls. And down here is where we keep our pot and our pan. So far, using and having just these two has worked perfectly. We've got a little organizer to try to keep them nice and not scratch each other. You'll notice this gray fabric under all of the cabinets. That's just to hold things in place. Down here, the last item is a strainer. We've had people ask before if we wanted to do doors on the cabinet or if we plan to add those. And so far we haven't needed them. Nothing's fallen out of place in the last couple months that we've been using it.
One of the things that we prioritized with this build was being able to keep the other 2 seats in the van while still having a bed platform and a kitchen in the back. So right now, obviously we have the captain's chairs removed to make room for some of the other things that we'd like to have. We chose not to invest in a solar panel setup. Most of that is just for financial reasons. We were trying to do this on a budget and make it practical. Since we're not living in the van full time, we don't really need solar. So a cooler does just fine, you know, get ice every 2 days and we haven't had any issues. For storage, we kept the front super simple. Again, we needed the front to be modular. So we've got a standard metal rack here. It is tied in so it can't tip. And then stuff like this will hold our food, and we'll just use an elastic strap. And everything stays in just great, and we haven't had any issues with stuff falling over or falling out while we drive. Other things for this kind of front area, we keep the trash can up front, makes it really nice and accessible. The van doesn't get as messy as quickly. And then also having something like this that's easily removable in the front is really, really nice, because when we're at the beach or at Sandy or whatever, being able to have something like this keeps the van much cleaner because you can just shake this out when you need to. The other advantage of having the cooler out front is that it does become a seat, right? And it opens up the space quite a bit to be able to just kind of hang out, you know, sit on the cooler and chat, and one person sits on the couch, one person sits on the cooler, and it makes it feel a lot more spacious in the van than it otherwise would, since it's really not that big of a van. All right, so this is our primary storage area. This used to be a TV up here, and so I gutted the inside, put in like a carpet on the bottom, and then did my best to put insulation and a fabric on the top. I'm probably gonna have to redo that part. But this is all going to be fishing stuff up in this side. And then when we're traveling, this is gonna be where our clothes and toiletries stay. We've got some solar panel stuff and electric stuff. We've got, these are our hooks that we put in. So that's for things like coats and towels. We've got camera supplies, cleaning supplies, any recovery gear that we need. So things like recovery rope, chains in the winter, stuff like that. Ropes and straps, more toiletries. That's for kind of at camp kind of stuff. And then we've got all of our lights that we use at night.
Thank you so much for watching our van tour. If you liked this kind of content, you liked this video, and you want to see more, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button.
Yeah, we'll be posting lots more of our travel, and I do a lot of camping and survival content as well. So again, like she said, thanks for watching. Much love. Noggin. If anyone's got any good suggestions.